morning, beautiful people of the center. Is that a beautiful way to start our service? Well, our topic for this month has been sowing seeds of abundance, and we certainly have that in our music program. We never know what we're going to get, and it's always so rich and wonderful. Yeah. So guiding us through this topic of sowing seeds of greatness for the whole year is this book, A New Design for Living. And I finally brought the correct edition, because each week I get up with my old first edition with the orange and white, because I'm attached to it. Don't you get like that sometimes with books that you've read so many times and got all the underlining? And I looked in the front of my original edition. It's got all of the addresses of where I've stayed for the last 15 years. And I've just carried it around. I love it so much. But I broke down and I have a fresh, clean one to speak to you from today. We're up to chapter 13. And we're on that section in chapter 13 that is entitled, Avoid Civil War. And that's a humorous title. Well, if you think about what can it mean, a civil war is a war between factions within the same country. So you and I are to think of ourselves as a country that has many parts going on, factions, voices, the same thing. And spiritual living is all about awakening to that complexity that makes you and I up. There's not just one thing going on in there. There's a lot going on in there. So the first slide that I brought is from the text, and it says this: although we are whole individuals, we have several distinct aspects within us, and we're going to talk about those distinct aspects. He names them. They are thought, emotion, and action. That's certainly one way of separating the different parts of ourselves. And ideally, when they are unified in purpose and direction, that's when you have that feeling of flowing with life and going in the direction, let's say, of your prayers. But if there's conflict between any of these parts within us, it can make the task of moving in the direction of your prayer a little more challenging. Now, there is a certain amount of dynamic tension that is natural in growth in life. Like breaking out of the egg. It's going to take some effort, or the natural excitement that we feel when we're doing something we've never done before, and questioning if we will succeed. I'm not talking about the natural give and take in the tensions of life. I'm talking about when I, or maybe you, work against yourself. I love, as you know, walking around Spring Lake, and it's really nice right now when you can see the seasons are changing. If you go at the same time all the time, the light is shifting, and it's a popular place for people to take their dogs for walks. And I got an illustration of what it means to frustrate your efforts watching dogs being walked, because sometimes the dogs and their walkers have a different idea about which is the preferred direction, right? And I got it really clearly the other day, something I'd not seen before. This walker had one leash, and at the end of the leash, it split into 3 distinct branches, at the end of which was a faction. 3 beautiful puppies. And while everyone was going in the same direction, it was very joyous and lovely to see. But as I watched one of the puppies, I had a change of heart, maybe got nervous, sat down, and then got up and turned in the opposite direction. And what followed was just a tangle, a spaghetti mess, and no forward motion was possible. And all resources had to be diverted to the situation. And I really got it. It's very similar with thought, emotion, and action. When they're all going in the same direction, it's such a beautiful flow. And when they are going in different directions, then you might say we have civil war inside. And the thing about civil war, as we know from history, is that it uses up resources because systems break down, and then resources have to be diverted from beautiful, joyous tasks of expressing creativity and nurturing the population. It has to be diverted to putting order back in place. So it's not a good thing. So let us examine those factions inside of us. We've got thought right up there, and I invite you to think of thought as the realm of choice within you. Your intelligence, that part of you that selects, that discriminates, that judges, that evaluates, that decides, that creates, the conscious part of you, the direction setter. Another realm that's in you at the same time is the realm called emotion. And over here, it's talked about in a particular way. We're talking about the realm of your internal combustion. All right? The engine in you. I was on the Mississippi River about a year ago, and Chris was with me and some other people who went to the conference, and we got on one of those paddle boats that glides across the Mississippi River beautifully, serenely, and we were invited, it's open to the public, to go down into the ship to look at the engine room. And it's amazing because it takes a lot to move those paddles, and so there's this big dynamic power and heat coming out, pushing the steam through, and I thought that's what we're talking about. That combustion within us that moves everything. In other works, Ernest Holmes talks about emotion as the warmth and color that moves in one direction. Well, it can also be the coldness and fear moving in a different direction. It's that wordless, felt reality inside of us, as important a faction as everything else. All right. Then there is action. Let's say action is the realm of all your doing, everything that you do, including the ordinary routines of your life, brushing your teeth, eating, drinking, sleeping, walking, all the doing, including such things as communication, verbal, nonverbal, the communication with a look, texting, emailing, written, all of that doing. It includes all of the doing of our practices, prayer, affirmative prayer, and the not doing of them. All right. So when these three realms are in agreement, then we experience that moving forward in the direction, let's say, of our prayer. So our practice then becomes to bring these three into alignment with each other so that they do match the intended direction that is inside our prayer, and we don't frustrate the momentum of our prayer. So then the question we can ask ourselves, we can say, all right, my actions in the world, all that doing stuff, is it for or against my prayer? And that felt reality within me, the combustion within me, the emotions, is it for or against my intended direction? And my thinking, is it for or against the direction of my prayer? So we can look at everything about ourselves. I can ask, am I, or better still, is all of me moving together? Now the next slide, let's read this one together. We must intellectually accept the truth of our affirmations of good. We must emotionally embody and feel them, live them right now, and our actions must demonstrate that we know they are real. All right. So, to intellectually accept my affirmations and my affirmative prayer, I notice that it has to make sense to me. It has to have a meaning that I understand so that I can accept it. So I have to create my prayers and my affirmations intelligently, not randomly, not superstitiously. So when I do say something in prayer, I tend to ask myself, what does it mean? So I sit with it and check if I was just saying some words on automatic because I heard somebody else say them. Say, what does it mean to me? And if it has no meaning for me that I can clearly identify, then I notice that the wordless felt reality, the realm of emotion, it doesn't rise up. The excitement doesn't rise up in me because I have not connected with the affirmation. Do you know that affirmative prayer depends on this internal combustion of emotion in us, that warmth and color and feeling. It's got to be there, but it cannot be forced and it cannot be produced. We cannot be told or made to feel or emote on demand. It must come up naturally. So in our prayer, we are not reciting a formula to unlock the good of the universe. We're not sending a request to a far-off deity. No, we are approaching the working of our inner world with understanding so we can get clear on what we mean with the words we use and why we say the things we say in our prayer. Because when we are clear on that and we have found the connection, then the warmth and the color of emotion just comes up all by itself. It rises up all by itself, and it doesn't have to be forced or manufactured. And then things move together in harmony. So when I practice my prayer time in the morning, first thing in the morning, I say my prayer. I say what I say. Afterwards, I don't get up and rush around. I first ask myself, what does it mean? For example, if I say there's only one life, I sit with that to see. Because I aim in my prayer to let every word have a meaning that I understand. Because when I understand what I've said, then I connect with it. And then when I connect with it, I'm part of it. And then I can accept the truth of my prayer. Let me give you another example. And since the topic is sowing seeds of abundance, let's say I start off at some point with the thought, you know what, I'd like to have more abundance in my experience. So I decide in my prayer, I'm going to say this affirmation, I am a millionaire. And then my action in the world is to go out and I say that several times to keep it on my mind, whatever I'm doing. But as I go throughout the day, I notice my intellect is screaming silently, no, you are not. And then the internal combustion, the feeling that rises, is one of insincerity and discomfort. And then I notice I have to pretend to be okay with it. And I'm hoping somebody else believes it. That's internal conflict. You see, I may know what the words mean. I may understand them, but I don't accept them, and I certainly don't feel them. So in that case, I have to approach it with a little more wisdom, and that may mean I need to step back a few paces, scale it back into a position where I can feel and understand and act on the meaning of it. So instead of saying I'm a millionaire, I might say something else. Like, for example, I might say, every day I am growing in my ability to see and accept good. And then, if the wordless felt reality in me goes, yes, then I have landed in the right spot. And then I am praying affirmatively. See, affirmative prayer is not desperate declaring, right? It's characterized by a different feeling. So I begin in a place where I can begin, so that I can agree with and accept my prayer and grow into. And when I say every day in every way I'm growing in my acceptance of good, maybe I'll notice that I'm not fully up to speed with that, because maybe it's not every day. And I may notice that sometimes I fall right off the path. But I can conceive of the destination, even if it's a bit of a stretch. And that concept is important, to be able to have that concept, because then I can say, I know what the direction is, even if I don't know the path. Then the idea and the felt reality and the actions, they work together, and I'm growing with it, and then divine intelligence within me and around me provides and fills in all of the details around me, often taking me even past what I conceived of in the beginning. We say around here that everything in life has a cause. that whole thing we call the law of mind. And we are thinking into that law that which we want to think. So everything that we think matters. And everything that we think means something to us. And everything that we think lets rise up some internal combustion and causes some action. Even in this very moment, the thoughts that you are entertaining matter. In a way, you can say they are unfolding as blueprints for your every following moment and all your tomorrows. And spiritual living is about awakening to that which we are setting in motion, to be mindful of it. So again, in the morning when I say my affirmative prayers, I remind myself that what I'm doing, I consider that to be a time of setting a new cause in motion. And then when I'm done with my prayer, afterwards, I can get up, and my next step is to move forward, fueled by the enthusiasm and the warmth and color that was generated in the process, even though I don't know exactly what will happen in my day. But I don't focus on that, because how is not my job. I focus on my actions. Do they match my direction I set in the morning? I pay attention to emotions during the day because they act like a barometer and a guide. And if something stirs up some kind of upset, I take it as an important sign. And I think that if the sign were in English, it would probably say, don't act. Don't let this disturbance take control. Don't let it be a new cause and set your life in a direction that matches its disturbance, because it's in the opposite direction of your prayer. Don't incite civil war. I think that's what it would say. It would say, instead, pause and take it as an opportunity to look at what is going on inside of me. Check. When that feeling arose, what was I thinking? And what am I thinking right now? Does that match the intention of my prayer? Observe. What am I actually doing? And what is the style in which I'm doing it? And does that match the intention of my prayer? And I might have to go back and revisit in my mind that prayer. What was I going on about that I felt so beautifully? And if necessary, realign with it right away. And if I can't realign with it right away, at least I know I can do it again in the morning. Because every morning I have another opportunity to set a new cause in motion, because that's my practice. And then that way, as I start fresh every single morning, it's creating an atmosphere around me that is a suitable environment for that new reality that I am birthing, that you are birthing. The next slide, won't you read it with me? All truly successful people carry with them an atmosphere of affirmative expectation. Now, successful over here means doing what it is you do in your life with agreement among all the factions of your being. So, successful could mean success in communication in your family. Successful could mean success at a task you have at work among your team members. Success could mean learning a new skill or subject or discipline at school. The important part of the quote is in that word atmosphere, talking about the atmosphere that allows and welcomes the experience of success. I like to get emails from one of our prayer practitioners that many of you know, Jennifer Mann, because she's got one of those automatic signatures at the end of her email, that inserts itself at the end of every message. And hers says, I am open to life beyond my wildest dreams. And if you talk to Jennifer, you know she is. And that is a completely true statement for her. It's not a wish. It's not a dream. It's not a hope of hers. That is her atmosphere. And I can't talk about the word atmosphere without thinking of the Schultz character, Pigpen, right? With that cloud of dirt that hovers around him wherever he goes. That's his atmosphere, right? So it causes me to think about atmosphere for us. Imagine this. The combination of your thought, decisions, judgments, prayers, your actions, communication, eating, sleeping, drinking, and the internal wordless reality of the feelings, all of that, that's your personal cloud. It's your atmosphere. And imagine it hovering around you wherever you go. Now some people are going, oh. But here's the good news. Imagine also that no matter what state that cloud is in currently, it can be developed, it can be refined, it can be reformed, it can be improved, it can be redirected every morning in your prayer time, your quiet time, by setting a new cause and a new direction in motion, and again the next morning. Oh, that feeling of confidence in that statement. I am open to life beyond my wildest dreams. That's the feeling of prayer, you know. And sometimes people have difficulty connecting with that because they've been trained to pray with more of a reaching and a reaching. That's a good word. I was talking to a class about this, and we were trying to identify the feeling. And so I asked the students in the class, I want you to think of something that you do in your life very well. What do you do in your life very well, so well that you're really confident in it? Because everybody's got something. And people thought about it, and one woman said, well, you know, I can make a lasagna. And everybody knows it. And you could just see the way she said it. Gone was all of the, indecision about prayer and her words. She knew she could make a lasagna. And one gentleman said, you know, I can fix anything mechanical. And just the way he emphasized anything, you knew it. That was his atmosphere. And one woman said, you know, this may sound silly, but I can really wrap a gift. And you could see she really knew how to do it. And she, you know, you could give her anything and she could wrap it and it would be perfect. And what were some of the other things? Well, one man said, he said, I can organize anything. Ooh, you know, it's amazing. Really, it's like, because some people can't, you know. The point of it is that when they found that, and when we find that something, then we have also identified the feeling that goes with affirmative prayer. So when in the morning I say something like, I have an inexhaustible inventory of possibilities and new ideas in me. Now I'm looking for a feeling to rise up of agreement and acceptance so that I can get up and go on with life, fueled by a bright cloud hanging over me, an atmosphere of affirmative expectation and acceptance. That's enough. Let us pray. There is only one life, expressing itself everywhere, all of the time, in all space, before time, forever and ever. It is the energy of creation from which all created things are formed. It is the mind of creation in which there is an inexhaustible supply of new possibilities not even yet expressed. It is all things in all time, and it is even the intelligence with which we are praying together. It is the love with which we love. It is the creativity with which we create. It is the compassion from which we share. It is that which links us together with all that is. And as we pray in this way, there rises up all by itself that wordless, felt reality that is connected to this knowing. To some it is holiness. To others it is excitement. To some it is deep peace. And as it rises up, it informs our prayer so that when we say, I have an inexhaustible inventory of possibilities and new ideas in me, I don't have to say thank you for it because the gratitude is already infused in it from deep within me, through the words. So when I say, I am in the right place in my life, there is a solidness to the statement. There is no convincing or no reaching. I am landing in it. So that when I say, I trust the spiritual laws that govern the universe to bring this about, it is my way of acknowledging that my part of the prayer work is done. I have set the direction and the how of it. I surrender to the laws of the universe. Fueled this way, informed this way, lifted up this way, I'm in a place of acceptance. And so I take this next moment to silently contemplate. And then let us breathe in deeply together. And breathing out, we bring this time of contemplation and prayer to its conclusion and build a bridge to that part in our service, which is also a spiritual practice, that of sharing. So I invite you to join with me in that atmosphere of spiritual practice as we embark on this, so that your giving enriches you as the giver and also your center as the receiver. I invite the ushers to stand where they are. And perhaps you are contributing right now with a check or with cash, or maybe you contribute through the automatic system, or you give once a month. Whatever your way is, either take your gift in your hand or place your hand on your chest as a symbol of your participation in this practice. So we may say together, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal and prosper. It does great work in the world. And so it is. Ushers, please receive the gift.